stumbled out of the wreck, soaked and coughing, shouting, "She's still inside. I tried to save her." The woman in the car, Claire Morris, 32 years old, a kind-hearted nurse, died in the fire. Her husband, Malcolm Webster, suffered only a few scratches. Everyone believed it was an accident. At the funeral, he wept uncontrollably, his neck wrapped in a brace holding Claire's brother's hand as the two mourned together. To anyone watching, it was heartbreaking. A man who had just lost the love of his life. But the police began to notice things that didn't add up. There were no skid marks on the road. His car was almost undamaged, except for the burn section. And strangest of all, when Malcolm was examined at the hospital, his pulse, blood pressure, and vitals were perfect, as if he'd never been in a crash at all. A few weeks later, the grieving husband collected $200,000 in insurance money and vanished. No one knew then that they had just witnessed the perfect murder.
In East England on
An
August
accident
27,
carefully staged by
2021.
the very man who walked out of the flames alive, calm, cold, and utterly unscathed. Malcolm Webster. Even his name sounded polite, respectable. The son of a high-ranking London police officer, his mother a nurse. A family everyone described as proper, well-raised, good people. But what people see on the surface often hides something far darker underneath. From a young age, Malcolm was different. He would pretend to faint just to get attention, then burst out laughing when others panicked. Once he set newspapers on fire in his house just to see how fast the flames would spread. His friends nicknamed him Pyro, the boy who liked to watch things burn. As he grew older, the lies began. He told people he had cancer. The doctors had given him only months to live. Everyone felt sorry for him. They helped. They cared. But when they learned it was all a lie, Malcolm just smiled and said softly, "I just wanted to know who truly cared about me." By 15, he'd dropped out of school and never held a steady job again. Nurse, driver, office clerk. Each lasted only a few months, but that never bothered him. He once joked to a co-worker, half laughing, half serious, "Why work hard when there's always someone willing to do it for you?" It wasn't just a joke. It was his philosophy. He lived off the trust and kindness of others. Every time someone did, Malcolm smiled. A smile of a man who just takes people over another person's emotions. Years later, he took a nursing position at Taiwan Hospital where he died. Within 6 months, 3 children under the age of 6 died suddenly of heart failure. No one knew why. But people noticed Malcolm had been injecting himself with insulin, a substance that, in the wrong dose, could kill. There was no proof, so he was quietly sent back to the UK. In 6 months, his powerful father, a senior police officer, had helped smooth things over. After that, Malcolm returned to Britain, starting over as if nothing had happened. On the outside, he was still the charming gentleman, soft-spoken, intelligent, well-liked. But behind that polite smile was something else entirely. A man who knew exactly how to earn people's trust, and how to use that trust to destroy them. And the most terrifying part? No one, not even those closest to him, realized that behind the white nurse's uniform was a monster. Claire Morris, 32 years old, a gentle, devoted nurse who believed that everyone deserved a chance to love and be loved. When she met Malcolm Webster at Aberdeen Hospital, he seemed like the perfect man. Polite, intelligent, soft-spoken and charming in that quiet, mature way. Claire's family warned her. Her mother even said flat out, "Sweetheart, there's something not right about that man." But Claire only smiled and replied, "He's been hurt before. I just want to help him live better." She loved him blindly, and that love would lead her straight to her death. They married in September 1993, a small, intimate wedding, where everyone saw how happy she was. But just weeks later, things began to change. Claire often felt tired, dizzy, and unfocused. She told her friends she'd been dozing off during shifts, saying, "Something's not right with me lately." No one knew that every cup of tea Malcolm brought her contained sleeping pills. He was slowly weakening her, making her dependent until the moment came for him to strike. A month before Claire's death, Malcolm had already tested his plan. He'd driven off the side of the road into a ditch, calling it a minor accident. It was a rehearsal. Then on the night of May 27, 1994, he did it again. Only this time Claire was unconscious, drugged. Their car went up in flames on a lonely road in the middle of a storm. When police arrived, Malcolm stood there, trembling, stammering. She's still in the car. He was almost unhurt, just a few scratches. His heart rate, blood pressure, perfectly normal. Claire, meanwhile, was gone, burned inside the car. No skid marks, no sign of collision, but everyone believed it was an accident. At the funeral, Malcolm wore a neck brace and stood beside Claire's brother, crying uncontrollably. He gripped Peter's hand like a broken man mourning his wife. Later, Peter would recall, "At that moment, I thought we were grieving together. I had no idea I was holding hands with the man who killed my sister." A few weeks later, Malcolm collected over $200,000 in insurance money. He bought a Land Rover, a yacht, luxury gifts, and presents for other women. One wife dead, one survivor growing richer from tragedy, and still no one suspected a thing. Everything was planned so perfectly. There was no room left for justice. That accident closed like a sad chapter to everyone else. But for Malcolm Webster, it was only the beginning of a dark new series of crimes he called The Art of Killing Without Leaving a Trace. 6 years after the accident that killed Claire, Malcolm Webster started over again, this time more than 10,000 kilometers away, in New Zealand. There he met Felicity Drum, a young, kind-hearted and trusting nurse, the exact type of woman he always hunted for. They first met at a hospital in Saudi Arabia, where both were working. Malcolm told her he was a widower, that his wife had died in a terrible car accident. His voice broke when he spoke, as if he still hadn't recovered from the pain. And just like before, she believed him. Felicity told her friends that Malcolm was gentle, attentive, and thoughtful. He claimed he had a heart condition and needed regular medication, and she genuinely worried for him. They married in 1997, then moved to New Zealand, where tragically, history was about to repeat itself. On their wedding night, Malcolm brought her a cup of tea to help her sleep. When Felicity woke up, 36 hours had passed. She didn't remember a thing. They married that her body felt heavy, her head then moved. He told her she'd just been exhausted. But it happened again. And again, her food tasted bitter, the water metallic. Some nights she'd wait to find Malcolm sitting beside the bed, just watching her. During her pregnancy, the dizziness worsened. Her liver tests came back abnormal, but no doctor could explain why. Later, investigators discovered that she had been poisoned with sedatives throughout her pregnancy, and that her unborn baby had absorbed the drugs through the placenta. Meanwhile, Malcolm was setting the stage for his next performance. He took out a $750,000 life insurance policy on Felicity, crafting the same tragic narrative, the grieving husband who loses his wife in an accident. And once again, he staged a car crash. He was driving, claimed there was something wrong with the steering wheel, and suddenly veered off the road. But this time, his plan didn't go perfectly. In a moment of panic, Felicity grabbed the wheel, sending the car tumbling into a ditch, but it didn't catch fire. Malcolm shouted, "Stay in the car! Don't get out!" His voice trembled, not with fear, but frustration. Felicity managed to climb out and call her lawyer, a call that would later save her life. When she woke after another blackout, she found herself lying in the woods beside the car, the air thick with the smell of gasoline. Malcolm stood outside, his voice no longer soft, but sharp and furious. "What the hell are you doing awake?" That was the first time she saw his true face. Not the gentle husband she thought she knew, but the cold, exposed eyes of a killer caught in the act. After his plan to kill Felicity failed, Malcolm Webster showed no sign of guilt or fear. He simply did what he did best. He disappeared. Within days, he drained their joint bank accounts, nearly $400,000 New Zealand dollars, leaving Felicity with just $12. Then he slipped out of the country, quietly as if he had never existed. When New Zealand police began their investigation, they discovered he had erased every trace of himself with chilling precision. Documents burned, hard drives destroyed. Even Felicity's will had been forged, her signature replicated stroke for stroke. In that fake will, every asset conveniently transferred to him. Back in the UK, Malcolm reinvented himself once more, this time as a terminal cancer patient. He told neighbors he only had a few months to live, that he was trying to slow down and enjoy what's left. He shaved his head, bought real medication, even visited real hospitals for fake checkups, just to make his story airtight. These people helped him, and as always, he began searching for his next target. Malcolm had an unsettling gift. He made people want to believe him. He spoke slowly, charmingly, with just the right amount of eye contact and empathy. Everyone thought he was a good man. He borrowed money, claiming it was for medical bills, and then vanished. By the time anyone realized, he was already in another country. New Zealand authorities issued an international arrest warrant. But while they were still drafting the paperwork, Malcolm was already back in Scotland, living under a new name, holding a new job, and charming yet another woman. By the time Christina realized, with her he repeated the same act, the fake illness, the borrowed money, tragic stories. And when suspicion crept in, he torched his computer hard drive, erased every file, and even burned their letters and photos. Malcolm Webster lived like a ghost, always moving, leaving no trace, always appearing wherever there was trust. And money. To every woman he wore a different mask. The patient needing care, the man who'd been hurt, the devoted husband. But beneath them all was only one thing, a manipulative, cold-blooded predator without conscience. And somewhere along the line, as investigators in New Zealand pieced together the evidence, a horrifying realization emerged. The fiery car crash in Scotland, 1994, and the accident.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
In 2005, Malcolm Webster resurfaced in Scotland looking frail and alone. He told everyone he was battling terminal leukemia, with only a few months left to live. People pitied him. Their sympathy
Welcome to Creating
and
Voiceovers.
among those who believed him was Simone Ballinger,
Welcome to Creating
an accomplished
Voiceovers.
healthcare administrator.
Welcome to Creating
Successful and wealthy. Simone had always been strong and rational.
Welcome to Creating
Malcolm knew
Voiceovers.
exactly how to make strong people fall.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Carried real hospitals.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers. To Creating Voiceovers.
When he spoke, he breathed.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers. Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Welcome
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers. Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Within months,
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
transferring all her assets, shares,
Welcome
and
to
property.
Creating Voiceovers.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Simplify the legal process after I'm gone. He never questioned it.
Welcome to
After
Creating
all,
Voiceovers.
why would a dying
Welcome to
man
Creating
really need to know?
Voiceovers.
Welcome to
But
Creating
there was
Voiceovers.
one
Welcome to
small
Creating
detail
Voiceovers.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
While most
Welcome to
cancer
Creating
patients
Voiceovers.
were thinner,
Welcome to
Malcolm
Creating
looked
Voiceovers.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
He ate well, moved
Creating
easily,
Voiceovers.
even went sailing on weekends.
Welcome to
One day he told Simone he
Welcome
wanted
to
to take a
Creating
final
Voiceovers.
honeymoon.
Welcome to
A private yacht
Welcome
trip
to
across
Creating
the Atlantic.
Voiceovers.
She agreed, thinking
Welcome
it
to
would be a
Creating
beautiful farewell
Voiceovers.
to life.
Welcome to
But
Creating
when Scottish
Voiceovers.
detectives heard about it,
Welcome
their
to
blood ran
Creating
cold.
Voiceovers.
They had seen this story before, and they knew Malcolm Webster.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers. Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
It looked like both he and Simone had
Welcome to
died.
Creating Voiceovers.
Then reappear somewhere new under another name.
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
When police raided the yacht, they found something chilling.
Welcome to Creating
Only Simone's
Voiceovers.
life jacket had been punctured.
Welcome to Creating
Everyone else's
Voiceovers.
remained intact.
Welcome to Creating
Webster
Voiceovers.
said nothing, just smiled.
Welcome to
He had
Creating
almost
Voiceovers.
recreated the same script again. A woman who loved
Welcome to
him,
Creating
an accident
Voiceovers.
and a huge payout. But this time, police were
Welcome to Creating Voiceovers.
no one knew exactly when he planned to strike, but everyone understood
Welcome
one
to
thing.
Creating Voiceovers.
If they had been even a single day late, Simone Banerjee would have become the third victim of the so-called perfect killer. In June 2006, while Malcolm Webster was still living comfortably with Simone and preparing for their so-called honeymoon across the Atlantic, fate came knocking, not for him, but for Jane Drum, the younger sister of Felicity, the wife who had narrowly escaped his hands in New Zealand. Jane was a domestic violence specialist, attending a women's safety conference in England. During a coffee break, she overheard a group of Scottish officers discussing a car fire back in 1994 in Aberdeenshire. The husband had survived. The wife had died in the blaze. Then she heard his name, Malcolm Webster. A burning car. A dead wife. A husband completely unharmed. Every detail mirrored the accident. Her sister had barely survived years earlier in New Zealand. The wife had died. Jane looked the officer straight in the eye and said, "That wasn't an accident. I think he tried to do the same thing in New Zealand." That single sentence changed everything. Scottish police immediately escalated the report. Within weeks, they reopened the case of Claire Morris, Webster's first wife. The new investigation was given a name, Operation Field. Detectives began connecting the dots. Two accidents, 11,000 miles apart, with identical circumstances, and the same man walking away unscathed. They sifted through hundreds of old files, searching for details that had once been overlooked. And then, one small forgotten clue turned the entire case around. In a forensic storage facility in Aberdeen, investigators found a preserved liver tissue sample
In the
from
quiet
Claire
suburbs
Morris,
of Macedonia,
sealed in paraffin for
Iowa,
14 years.
a digital
A remnant no one had ever expected to matter again. Using modern technology, forensic scientists re-examined the tissue. The result, traces of temazepam, the exact sedative Malcolm
In the
Webster
quiet
had
suburbs of
routinely used during his
Macedonia,
hospital shifts.
Iowa,
Claire had
a
never
digital
been prescribed that medication, and at the concentration found in her liver, there was only one possible explanation. She had been drugged before she died. When the results came in, the briefing fell silent. After more than a decade of suspicion, the truth was undeniable. The 1994 accident was no random car fire. It was a meticulously planned murder. For the first time in 17 years, justice began to move. And somewhere out there, Malcolm Webster still believed he'd gotten away with everything, unaware that the darkness he'd lived in was finally being pierced by the light. The trial of Malcolm Webster began in early 2011 at the High Court in Glasgow. From the very first day, the Scottish press called it the trial of the century, not just because of the crimes, but because of the sheer scale and precision of the investigation that had taken years to unravel. 5 years of pursuit, over 1,000 witnesses from 6 countries, 90 search warrants, more than 200 pieces of evidence. The case files stacked nearly as high as a person. Those who had once doubted him, doctors, colleagues, friends of the victims, each took the stand. And with every testimony, every fragment of detail, the puzzle came together, revealing the face of a methodical, calculating killer. Felicity Drum was the first to testify. When she saw him in court, she didn't tremble. She simply spoke slowly and clearly. "I once believed he was dying of cancer. I never imagined I'd be the one who almost died." She described everything: the strange-tasting drinks, the sudden fatigue, the highway accident, and how Malcolm had screamed, "Stay in the car!" Just as she tried to escape, the courtroom fell silent, broken only by the steady tap of the judge's pen. Next came a witness from Scotland, a firefighter who had been at the scene back in 1994. There were no skid marks, he said, no heavy impact. The car was almost stationary when it caught fire. I knew something wasn't right. Forensic experts confirmed it. Claire Morris had been poisoned with temazepam before she died. Medical and work records showed that Malcolm Webster was the only person with access to that drug. He sat through it all motionless. No fear, no remorse. Sometimes he even smiled. That same chilling, detached smile that made people shudder. His defense lawyer admitted he was a liar, a fraud, a manipulator, but insisted there is no direct evidence that he's a murderer. Yet every piece of circumstantial evidence, the witness statements, the financial trails, the behavioral patterns, all pointed in one direction. After 16 weeks of trial, the jury needed less than 4 hours to deliver their verdict. Guilty. Malcolm Webster was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 30 years before eligibility for parole, one of the longest sentences in Scottish history. When the judge read the verdict, his words were slow, deliberate, and cold. This was a crime of cold calculation and cruelty. You show no remorse, no humanity, and you remain a danger to everyone. In the courtroom, Felicity Drum wept quietly. After 17 years, justice had finally caught up to him. And for the first time, Claire Morris's name no longer appeared under accidental death, but under murder. In July 2011, Malcolm Webster was escorted back to prison after the verdict was handed down. Life in prison, a minimum of 30 years with no possibility of parole. And when the judge read his sentence, he didn't bow his head. He showed no remorse. His expression remained cold, as if he still believed he was innocent, or worse, that he'd simply been unlucky. Inside HMP Shots prison, the other inmates called him the nurse killer. Some said he still liked to talk, to tell his life story as if it were a novel. No regret, no guilt, only curiosity about what others thought of him. Outside, the people he had destroyed were learning how to rebuild their lives. Felicity Drum, the woman who narrowly survived his staged car fire in New Zealand, now lives peacefully with her son. In an interview, she said, "I used to think I was weak, but the truth is, he chose me because I was strong. He just never expected me to survive." She holds no hatred, only hopes her story will remind others that love doesn't mean blind trust. For Claire Morris's family, it took 17 long years to restore her dignity. After Webster's conviction, they returned to the small cemetery in Aberdeenshire. Under a light drizzle, they removed the old headstone that once read, "Beloved wife of Malcolm Webster." In its place, they erected a new one.
In December 2012,
Claire Morris,
Nancy's husband Dennis
1962-1994, beloved daughter and sister.
Carrie didn't
No
attend the
mention
funeral.
of him.
For
No
Nancy,
trace of
it
the
was
man who
unthinkable
destroyed
that
her
Carrie
old
would miss
headstone.
such
Her
an
brother,
important
Peter
family
Morris,
event.
stood at the grave and said a line no one would ever forget. For 17 years, it was the perfect murder. He got away with it because he made everyone believe it was love. A sentence both heartbreaking and haunting. Malcolm Webster will remain behind bars until at least 2041, when he'll be 82 years old, if he lives long enough to even hear the word parole. No one knows if anyone will still remember him then. But for those he hurt, justice finally arrived. Late on, but it came. This story doesn't end with gunfire or blood. It ends with awareness, a reminder that love can blind, and that trust.
In the quiet suburbs of Macedonia, Iowa, a digital nightmare was about to unfold, twisting a story of love and life.
Believe you're loved. This story doesn't end with
The
gunfire or
harassment
blood.
campaign was only
It ends with
intensifying.
awareness, a reminder
Dave
that love
changed
can
his phone
blind,
number multiple
and
times.
that trust.
In the quiet suburbs of
Samsung
Macedonia,
2 lựa chọn hàng đầu của giới doanh
a
nhân
digital
hiện
nightmare
các
was
và đẳng
about
cấp
to
cho mọi hành
unfold,
trình. Không chỉ mang
twisting a
đến nhiều
story
chiếc
of
vali
love
và
and
đồ
life.
thanh lịch và sang trọng, Samsung luôn dẫn đầu trong công nghệ sản xuất tiên tiến, tạo nên những sản phẩm siêu nhẹ, siêu bền và tinh tế trong từng chi tiết, phù hợp cho mọi chuyến đi công tác xa, đặc biệt với chế độ bảo hành toàn cầu tại hơn 118 quốc gia, dễ dàng sửa chữa, vali, ba lô ngay trong chuyến công tác tại tất cả các cửa hàng và trung tâm dịch vụ ủy quyền chính hãng trên toàn thế giới. Sở hữu ngay hôm nay, siêu nhẹ, siêu bền và tinh tế trong từng chi tiết, phù hợp cho mọi chuyến đi công tác xa, đặc biệt với chế độ bảo hành toàn cầu tại hơn 118 quốc gia, dễ dàng sửa chữa, vali, ba lô ngay trong chuyến công tác tại tất cả các cửa hàng và trung tâm dịch vụ ủy quyền chính hãng trên toàn thế giới.
오빠를 도와주고 싶어요. 근데 내가 만약에 직접 송금을 하면 오빠 무슨 외국환 관리법 같은 거 위반이 될 수 있으니까 내가 우리 일본에서 많이 하는 금 ETF 이런 게 있거든요. 여기 계정을 하나 만들어서 돈을 넣어드릴게요. 이러는 거예요.